Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, no.
Do you want to?
Sorry. I'll let you.
Next one. I'm excited and I feel relaxed and I'm
Hello, everybody, and
ready
welcome to Citizen
to
James, the podcast where we love, and joy, and happiness, unlike some people who want to be miserable. I'm Karen Peterson, joined by Lauren Humphries Brooks.
Can you guess what
Hello.
Lauren, do you love happiness?
I do. And the movie that we're talking about today makes me very, very happy. So
It really does.
I am excited.
Yeah. Before we get into it, I do want to. We planned all of this before, like we planned all this, days ago. But this week we lost Val Kilmer, and I just wanted to take a moment to just talk about how sad that is. And I mean, he seemed to beat cancer a couple years back. Like it's been a rough couple of decades for him. And it was one of those things where it's like we've kind of expected it for a while, but it still felt really sudden. So it was sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. I think we were actually talking yesterday, I think, about how it turns out that he was our favorite Batman.
Yeah, both of us. We've never talked about this before.
And it's true. Like I have like, am I going to say that Batman Forever is the best Batman movie, like in terms of just quality of filmmaking? Probably not. Like I don't know. But I love that movie. And I think that Val Kilmer like hit the balance really well between, I think he played Bruce Wayne and Batman both really, really well. And that's something that is hard to do, actually, that a lot of like we get actors who are good at playing Batman or who are good at playing Bruce Wayne but aren't good at playing both. And I think that Val Kilmer is one of the few who actually managed both of them, and in a really enjoyable way. So yeah, I think that was probably the first time I actually saw Val Kilmer in anything was Batman Forever.
Yeah, my first time was Top Gun, and
which is for most people. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I was old enough for that, so sort of. I was 9. And I definitely didn't love him because I thought he was a bad guy. It took me a little while before I loved Val Kilmer, but yeah. Interesting side note, he dated Cher, who is the star of the movie that we're talking about today. So they dated for, I believe, 2 years in the early 80s. And yeah, she's always been one for going for the younger guy, and I love that about her.
Hey, props to Cher. Props to Cher for dating peak Val Kilmer in the 1980s.
Yep.
I actually watched Real Genius last night for the first time, and it's funny because I happen to own the 4K Blu-ray of this. And the reason for this, I'd never seen the film until last night. The reason for this is that at some point I made an order from like I think it was Best Buy for a completely different movie, and they sent me Real Genius. And I was like, well, this is not the movie that I ordered. And rather, like they didn't, I reported, I was just like, this is the wrong film. They're just like, oh, we'll just send you another copy. I was like, but should I send this back? They're like, no, keep it. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep this movie that I've never seen. And I now have the 4K Blu-ray of it. So I was watching it last night. It's a very fun movie.
It really is so fun. I need to watch that again. I don't own it, and I haven't watched it in a long time. It used to be on TV all the time when I was younger, and it hasn't for years. And I'm looking, and it's not, well, it's available for rent. It's not streaming on any of the services, but it is available to rent. So,
or you can buy it on 4K. Apparently.
Or I can buy it on 4K, which I just might do. All right. Well, this week so I don't know how this quite happened, but somehow this month we are talking about not just romantic comedies, which is sort of what started all of this, but specifically romantic comedies from 1987.
Yeah, romantic films made in 1987.
Romantic films, yes.
I think that this happened because we were talking about doing like spring romance films, and then we named a couple of films and realized that they had all been released the same year. And so just like, well, let's just do 1987 because that's what we're doing, apparently.
Yeah. So that's what we'll be doing. So like this week we're talking about Moonstruck, the Norman Jewison film from 1987. And then next week we're going to discuss Maurice, and then we're doing The Princess Bride and Roxanne. So it's going to be an interesting and a really fun month, I think.
I think so too. And also to any of our listeners, if you've seen these films, one of those is kind of an outlier, and I want you to like tell us which one. So Moonstruck, Maurice, Roxanne, and The Princess Bride.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun month. I own 2 of these on Criterion discs, so I think the only 2 that are on Criterion disc, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yeah, so this week we are talking about Moonstruck. This was directed by Norman Jewison, who you would know from other films like I'm Definitely Prepared. I mean, he did In the Heat of the Night back in the 60s. He directed Agnes of God is another one that still gets talked about. Fiddler on the Roof is another of his big ones. The Thomas Crown Affair. A lot of well-known films, and this was it was nominated for, I can't remember how many Oscars, but it won 3. I think it was nominated for like 6 Academy Awards. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
6.
Pretty much all of the big ones, actually.
Yeah,
Best Picture, Best Director, Actress, Supporting Actor, not Actor. Okay, so it didn't get that one.
Right.
Supporting Actor, Actress, Supporting Actress, and Screenplay.
Yeah, and it won 3 Oscars. So Cher wins Best Actress that year. Olympia Dukakis wins Best Supporting Actress, and John Patrick Shanley wins for Screenplay. And John Patrick Shanley has an interesting career. I wanted to just talk about at the beginning of this before we get into the movie too much. So he's written a lot of things. He's kind of all over the place. His writing credits are interesting, but he hadn't really written for the screen for film until this year. This is sort of his breakout year on screen. Before that, he had written some stage plays and some TV stuff, but his first movies really took off this year, and Moonstruck being one of the first. But he also wrote Joe versus the Volcano with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And he wrote a movie called Congo, which is apparently still like this cult movie favorite among certain segments of our film community. It's based on a Michael Crichton novel about an expedition that gets killed by gorillas. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Congo. Yeah, Congo. Yes, I know that. I know that movie very well. Actually.
He also directed. So he wrote and directed 3 films, and they were Joe versus the Volcano. So that was his first time directing. Which, by the way, that movie is great. I love it. He also wrote and directed Doubt, which has Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman, and also was nominated for some Oscars. And then Wild Mountain Thyme, which we both watched. We didn't do a full episode on it, but we definitely talked about it on this podcast because it is the weirdest fucking movie. And to go from Doubt to Wild Mountain Thyme, like what? What?
No, I was just looking at like his credits because he also wrote We're Back, a dinosaur story. Yes. And then Congo, the screenplay for Congo, and Doubt. And I believe he wrote the original play of Doubt as well. Like that was his. Yeah. So what an interesting dude. Yeah. So when he wrote Moonstruck, he originally wrote it with a different title. It was called The Bride and the Wolf. And he was shopping it around trying to find someone to produce it, and everyone passed on it because they just didn't like it. And Norman Jewison it landed on his desk. His agent sent it to him, and another client of the same agent had already passed on it, but he read it and loved it. And so he basically went back to Shanley and said, I really like this. I want to make it, but we need a new title because this sounds like a horror movie. And
So he came up with a couple of suggestions. Moonstruck was on the list, and so that's how that happened. So just some fun facts that you learn when you have the Criterion edition.
Well, it is one of those films that it's odd in a lot of ways. And if you actually look at it, it all takes place over the course of about 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very it's like a speed run romance and everything. But there are like edges of it that it feels like it's almost parodic or satirical, but then it isn't. It's just earnest enough. And they sell it, like the actors sell it, the writing sells it, the director sells it. It works really well. And I think that it's one of those things that I can see someone looking at it on paper and being like, that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yet it working on the screen incredibly.
Yeah. And you really have to have the right mix of actors. You have to have the right director for a film like this to work. And this is what you get with Moonstruck, is just this perfect blend of people all coming together at the right time to make this movie. So yeah, it's so delightful. I love it. So let's talk about it. So it's about Cher plays a woman named Loretta, who she is 37. Oh my gosh, so old. And she is a widow. She had been married about 10 years before or so, and then her husband died after 2 years. And so she's been a widow for a few years. And she is dating someone named Johnny, who is played by Danny Aiello. He proposes to her at the beginning of the movie, and then he needs to go off to Sicily to see his dying mother. So he leaves her alone for a couple of days and asks her to please go talk to his brother Ronnie, played by Nicolas Cage, and try to smooth things over, because Ronnie and Johnny had a falling out a few years back, and Johnny wants to use this opportunity to try to patch things up between them. So then Ronnie and Loretta end up falling in love. It's very silly and very delightful and just wonderful. And a lot of things happen in between. So overall, Lauren, when you think about Moonstruck, what are some of your feelings, thoughts associated with this movie?
I love this movie, and when you suggested it, I was just like, I can't believe we haven't talked about Moonstruck, because it's delightful, it's funny, it's got a fantastic cast. I think that honestly, the first thing that I think of whenever I think of Moonstruck is like Nicolas Cage screaming about his hand. And it's one of those that when you watch, you're like, this shouldn't work. At some level, it's like it should be stupid. Like it's in some way, you're like, is this, because everyone's taking it seriously, but it's also funny. So you've got this like balance that's going on in the film, but it really does work so well. And in rewatching it, like I was like, oh, this is really like there are all of these elements of the fairy tale and the like kind of a modern day fairy tale sort of idea, and the opera, right? And like opera is a major feature that runs throughout the film. And I think that kind of conditions you to be like, okay, this is operatic, this is humorous, but it's like also going to be extreme. It's going to be more melodramatic, the falling out between the brothers, and the one brother who goes to sit by the bed of his dying mother, and the woman who like gets made over by love. Like all of these different things kind of gets fed into this film that is also about this Italian American family in New York. And yeah, it just they do such a good job at balancing out all of the different elements and of making it really believable. Like you believe that Ronnie and Loretta fall in love over the course of like a couple of hours, really. Like they meet, and by that like afternoon they're sleeping together, and they're like, oh, they're madly in love with each other.
Yeah.
But it works. Like the way that the film establishes everything, it really sets you up in this world that is very, very much like a fairy tale, and is very much like, it's the kind of could only happen in New York sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And just really, really well done, and lovely and charming, and just very, very funny.
I would like to talk a little bit about the origin of the film really quickly. So
Yeah.
John Patrick Shanley, he's not Italian American. He is Irish and well, Irish American. And he has talked about Moonstruck and how really for him this was sort of based on observing the Italians across the street. Like he lived kind of adjacent to an Italian neighborhood, and he felt like his family, his neighborhood, everything was so boring and everybody was so, so intent on being proper and everything and just not expressive really. And then you look across the street at the Italians and how they just seem to be having so much fun and they were always in each other's business, and he just really loved that. And so you can see that come through in this movie. It doesn't feel like it's mocking Italian families. It feels like it really is appreciating them and sort of the chaos and the everybody's in each other's business all the time, but really they all love and care about each other, and that's why they're in each other's business. So I love that idea that this is based on observation rather than experience. And I think that part of that kind of helps some of the silliness of it work so well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like, well, I mean, the entire film opens with a juxtaposition of Dean Martin singing, when That's Amore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And juxtaposed against the Met Opera putting up the playbills, et cetera, for La Boheme. And so you've got these kind of two dual things. So one of the most recognizable voices and songs about the Italian American experience is Dean Martin. And then you've also got that other side of it, the opera, but it's that kind of extremity of emotion. Yeah. And there's a humor in the juxtaposition as well. It's just like, okay, it's funny, right? This is like, oh, it's Dean Martin and the opera, right? And they propose Johnny proposes in this Italian restaurant, and everybody's talking about like, oh, he's got a ridiculous suit, so you have you've got those jokes about the Italian man who's kind of being stepped on by his mother, is like even on her deathbed she's still controlling his life. All of those kinds of things. So it plays into some of these stereotypes, but because it brings the humanity of the characters through, it's funny. It isn't mocking, like you say. It's not like it's stereotyping, but in a sense of like, yeah, I've met Italian families like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, this is absolutely how people behave sometimes.
Yeah. And you also have some just funny things, like a lot of the people that are in this are not even Italian. Cher is Armenian. Olympia Dukakis is Greek. So, but it just all works. It's such a perfect cast. It's such a great movie. And so I think that starting off, so we do begin sort of with this proposal in the restaurant. Johnny is proposing to Loretta. He doesn't have a ring, and she calls him out on this. Like, if you ask a girl to marry you, you gotta have a ring. And so he takes off his pinky ring and like, here you go. Like, this man is not prepared. He's not serious. He's not prepared to marry this woman, and has clearly not thought this through. But she has settled into this life of, I don't get anything that I want. She married for love once and it didn't work out because he died. Mm-hmm. And so she's just kind of settled into, this is just what life is. She just accepts it as it comes. And so she has a nice enough man who wants to marry her. And so why not? What else has she got to do? So sure, she'll just marry him, but there's no passion. There's no love there. It's just companionship. But then when she meets Ronnie, played by Nicolas Cage, who is just so over the top dramatic, like to a hilarious degree, it really makes me sad that he wasn't nominated for Best Actor for this, because he's so funny in this. But they also don't like to nominate young actors, only young actresses. Anyway, but I think that meeting him, he unlocks something in her, because she also is a passionate person that has just been suppressing that for a really long time. And so Ronnie opens that up in her. And so it does make sense that they could fall in love so quickly because they're both just such passionate, emotional people. And he's the first one in a long time that's kind of given her the freedom to be that.
Yeah, I agree. I like there's a moment where she tells her mother, played by Olympia Dukakis, I'm gonna marry Johnny. And her mother asks, do you love him? And she says, no, I don't, but I like him, right? And he's a good man. Like, and so she's even being pretty honest about it. No, she doesn't love this man. It's obvious that she doesn't love him. He doesn't really love her. It's more of like, okay, you're compatible, you like each other, you get along, like, all right, sure, fine, get married. The other thing, though, I think that should be noticed, that she really controls her life.
Yeah.
Like she's a bookkeeper, but she even controls him. Like she tells him, no, this is how you have to propose, right? This is how you have to do it. You have to have the ring, you have to get down on your knee. And the reason for this and the background of it is that she was married once before. She didn't do it, quote, right? They went to City Hall, all of this stuff. And then he died. And because he died, obviously she's cursed. And it's because nothing was done correctly. And so she's kind of created this world for herself where she's limiting herself. She's not going to just, in that sense, she's not going with the flow, right? She's going to control everything. Like if she's going to get proposed to, it's going to be correct. You have to do it right. And she's going to tell the man who's proposing to her every step along the way, here's how you have to do it. Yeah. And then, of course, she meets Ronnie and everything gets thrown out the window because he refuses to obey her, essentially. And she keeps on telling him, like, no, it has to be like this. It has to be like this. It's just like, no, that's crazy. That's stupid. We should be in love with each other. And of course, and she eventually is able to go along with it and kind of let all of that go and actually marry for love. And even as crazy and wild and ridiculous as it is.
Yeah. And then you get that great callback line at the end when they do get engaged and her mother asks, do you love him? And Loretta says, I love him awful. And Rose says, oh, that's too bad.
Well, so that's the whole thing, is that, well, if you love him, then like he can fuck around with you and you still love him and it's terrible.
Yeah, and it'll hurt you, which she would know.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about what's going on with Loretta's parents in a second, but I did want to just kind of talk a little bit about Loretta and curses, and because she does believe she's a very practical woman, but she does believe in curses. She does believe in this possibility and that, she didn't do things correctly, so her husband was taken away. She sees Johnny off at the airport and there's this woman who is cursing the plane, and she gets kind of, that scene is hilarious. There's so many funny, the writing in this is some of the best writing. I love it so much. But yeah, this woman is cursing the plane because her sister's on that plane, and 50 years ago my sister stole my man. and
it turns and now she tells me she didn't even love him, that she was just doing it to get back at me. And it's like, and then she's standing there like, what the fuck is happening? And it says, so I put a curse on that plane. It's like, well, I don't believe in curses, neither do I.
Yeah. And yet she kind of does.
She does, yeah. She thinks that she's cursed.
Yep, that's kind of been her whole life. And so, and that has driven a lot of the things that she's done, and it's caused her to kind of withdraw, I guess, into something where she's not expressing her passions. She's not living out what she would really like to. She's marrying the comfortable person. She still lives at home. She's back at home with her parents. It's like she's bookkeeping. She's got kind of her own work that she's doing, but it's within her local community. Like she's just kind of shrunk into this life that is of her own choosing. Nobody expects it of her. They're used to it because she's around, but they don't, like, you don't get the sense that people forced her into this or demanded that she oh, your husband's dead, so now you have to do all these things. It's just kind of what she's done to herself. So meeting Ronnie, all of that is out the window. And suddenly all of the things that she has felt that she's been not letting herself feel for a really long time, she opens herself up to that. And one of the things that is going on at the same time is her parents. Turns out her father is having an affair. Her mother knows about it. Her mother tells Rose tells Loretta that her father is cheating. And Loretta doesn't want to believe this, but then when she meets up with Ronnie at the opera, she sees him and she knows exactly what's happening. And I think because of sort of how she's starting to live again, she has no problem telling her father off for it.
Well, I really like that scene where they run into each other at the opera, because they're both on dates with people that are not their spouses or their fiance.
Yeah, not with their own partner.
And they're both like looking at each other, and she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing with this man? You're my daughter. You shouldn't be doing this. Well, you're my father. You shouldn't be doing this. And there's like all this back and forth. They're just like, all right, we're just gonna walk away. Yeah. It's very funny. Like I really like that, because they're both doing something illicit, right? And they both really don't want the other one to see them, but they're also like, Loretta's trying, in a certain sense, Loretta's trying to be like, take the moral high ground. And it's just like, well, who's this guy then?
Right.
It's like, oh, this is Johnny's brother.
That
his brother
slept with. Yeah, it's not like she's just hanging out with her soon-to-be brother-in-law. This is clearly a date. She's gone and gotten herself all fixed up, and she did her hair, which her father even notices. So that's how much of a big deal this is, that Loretta's gone to the salon, because even her dad notices that she did that. But I think that if this is something I was thinking about yesterday when I was watching it again, was if Johnny were still around, if she were still very much like in that, and like just in wedding prep mode, would she have told her father off? Well, she probably wouldn't have been there in the first place, so she wouldn't have seen this happen. But how would she have reacted if she had been kind of doing I don't know.
Yeah, I think that so much of it is about like the choices that she has made. And like, I mean, she even, one of the things that struck me, honestly, as someone who lives in New York, is that she has to ask Ronnie where the Metropolitan Opera is.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to New York, the Metropolitan Opera is really obvious where the Metropolitan Opera is. It's not hard. It's not like easy to miss particularly. It's at Lincoln Center. It's huge. It's got the massive, like, iconic fountain in front of it. So the fact that she doesn't even know where the opera is really does indicate how cloistered she has made herself, and that she has like completely kind of removed herself from life, essentially. And that's one of the things that that Ronnie basically accuses her of. It's just like, you're not living, you're not enjoying yourself in any way. And if you're going to enjoy yourself, at least have fun, like at least live in some way.
That makes a lot of sense. I have never been to the Met, so I don't, but it looks like a beautiful building.
It's gorgeous. Like, I mean, it's literally impossible to miss. Like, if you have ever seen the Metropolitan Opera, it's very like, it's one of the major landmarks of the city. I actually used to live not far away from it. I lived like beyond Lincoln Center and kind of in one of the back streets behind Lincoln Center, basically. But it's a really, really obvious place. It's very close to Juilliard. It's also where the Film Society is, etc. So like, the Metropolitan Opera is pretty much impossible to miss if you've ever been uptown, basically.
Awesome. Well, they are there to see La Boheme, which you mentioned it earlier, and we do hear some of the music from La Boheme throughout, and there are definitely some themes from that opera, which is by Puccini, that carry over into Moonstruck. However, La Boheme is a tragic love story. This one is not, thankfully. But there definitely are some things that it draws that Moonstruck draws some references from the opera, such as, well, just the two leads and how they're really not supposed to be together. They come from very different lives, and their meeting is sort of by chance, and they're not, in this case, Loretta and Ronnie, they should be brother and sister-in-law. They should not be together, and so it's sort of this. It should be an ill-fated situation, but of course it's not. It ends up being wonderful. But you also have just beautiful things like there's this moment with there's a story that one of the characters tells about this giant moon. Well, then we see that giant moon, and it's sort of this magical moment for a lot of the characters in the movie, but it's especially just a magical moment for Loretta and Ronnie, because that's sort of when you really see this isn't just them like just sleeping together. There's something much deeper, much bigger here.
Yeah, it's that Moonstruck element, that element of like, oh, the moon has made things magical in some way. It's influenced everybody. Like, people have gone a little bit crazy, and the story that is told is about it's what Cosmo's brother-in-law. Cosmo's brother-in-law tells a story about like when they were all young, and he woke up in the middle of the night and there was a light shining on his face, and he went to the window and it turned out to be the moon. And he looked out into the street and Cosmo's standing there looking up at the house. And he talks about like, I was angry at him because, I thought he brought this moon here, and it was because he was so much in love with my sister. Yeah. And so there's this whole thing about like the moon representing love and representing just like this bursting of emotion that you can't even really control, and that is magical in some way. It's something that, people bring to each other because their love is just so overwhelming. And that's what, runs throughout the entire film. Everybody's a little bit moonstruck.
Yeah. Well, and you have Ronnie, who sees himself as something of a wolf, and he, basically howls at the moon. The moon just, I love the image and just the way that everyone stops, because it is an unusually large full moon, and it's the kind of thing that everybody takes notice of. And it is this beautiful moment in the movie where it's just, you can't help but just, stop and be in awe of it, and just kind of appreciate this wonder, that is happening, and just what that does, and kind of where people are at as they're experiencing this. I like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's that very fairy tale-esque element to everything. That sense of like there being some kind of magic, and then also the aftermath of the magic. The aftermath, when you do wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my god, I slept with my fiance's brother.
Yeah. Yeah. And so of course then Loretta has to deal with that. But you also have sorry, I just got distracted. The aftermath of that. So like Loretta, I mean, she definitely doesn't, she's not someone who's like, oh, whatever, it's fine. She has some concerns about the fact that she's, starting to fall for Ronnie, and she had her life all in order. And now there's this, twist thrown in there for her. I love when she goes to confession and her confession is so funny, and the priest knows exactly who she is. She's this good girl. And one of the things I do, I'm not Catholic, but one of the things that makes me sometimes kind of wish I was is like, oh, okay, she can sleep with her fiance's brother, and then she just has to pray the rosary twice, and everything is forgotten and forgiven. It's fine.
I do like that he says, just like, that's a pretty big sin.
Yeah.
Like that's a big one right there. Let's not pass over that.
Right. Yeah. Well, just the way she says it, she's like, took the Lord's name in vain twice. I slept with my fiance's brother, and I passed a bad check, but that was an accident. Oh, well, if it was an accident, it's not a sin. But also, let's back up a second.
So go back to that second one for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, about Loretta is that she does feel like she has to go and confess and repent of this, and obviously she doesn't stop seeing Ronnie. She falls more in love with him, but this is something that she understands, and she's realizing that she has real feelings, and she's not quite sure what to do with it. But then she starts having these conversations with her mom, which I think just kind of confuses her even more emotionally. Because yeah, she has been very used to, I don't need to be in love. Love isn't something that is good for me.
She's used to having this very ordered life, and to a certain degree, she has this element of her that is very like, this is the way that things are, and this is the way that they're supposed to be. And Ronnie upends a lot of that. He confuses her.
Yeah.
He makes her like think about the world differently. He makes her think about love differently. And he's like, this is, and so she keeps on, going back to him. So like she says, we can never see each other again. You're not allowed to come to the wedding. And he's like, I'm gonna come to the wedding. So you can't stop me from coming to my brother's wedding. And they go back and forth. And he's just like, okay, go to the opera with me tonight. And then we'll never see each other again, but you have to go with me in the opera. And so she keeps on coming back to him. She keeps on agreeing. She decides, she does show up at the opera. She does get her hair done and get a new dress and like all of this. So she's being pulled between this very safe life that she has had and that she thinks she is liked, and kind of the passion and excitement and the danger that he represents. And she, and ultimately it becomes like, it's actually not that dangerous, really. Right. It's better to live than it is to just have this orderly, boring existence.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and while all this is happening, we have her parents, Cosmo and Rose, who, as previously mentioned, Cosmo's been having an affair. He has a girl on the side, Mona. He's buying her gifts. They're spending time together. They go to the opera together that night. And Rose knows this is happening, and she's kind of powerless to stop it. She not that she's powerless, but she's not really going to do anything about it. She's just accepting that this is what's happening. But that doesn't mean that she's okay with it. She does have a lot of feelings about it. And she spends a lot of time kind of asking anybody she can, why do men chase women? She asks a lot of men this question. And it's sort of her own search. She wants to understand how this man that she's been, that she has loved and been married to for 50 years, how he could just suddenly want somebody else. And it's interesting because the responses that she gets from several people are basically just, they want to feel young. And the big one is they're afraid of death. They chase younger women because they're afraid of death. And I don't know what to make of Rose. She doesn't really fight for him. She just kind of waits for him to come around.
Well, yeah, but one of the issues is that she knows what's happening and she doesn't tell him. She doesn't know. She doesn't say like, I know what's going on. And there is and where she does quote fight for him is that she looks at him and she says, you need to stop seeing her.
Yeah.
Like, so there's this sense, I think, throughout that there needs to be openness, that they've lost the openness of their marriage. And by that, I mean like the willingness to talk to each other and the willingness to relate to each other. And the fact that, he's getting old, and, one of the things that she says to him, I love it, at the breakfast table conversation is so wild, really, because
one of the best scenes.
all of these different things have been going on, and of course the audience knows, but the individual characters are not all aware of like what has been happening. So they're all at the breakfast table, and she like looks at Cosmo, she's just like, I just want you to know you're gonna die someday and there's nothing you can do about it. And he's like,
with no context. Yeah.
It's like, thank you for that. And
Mhm.
but it does come to this moment of understanding where, she says, you have to stop seeing her. And I love it because he stands up, he hits the table, and then he sits down. It's like, okay.
Mhm.
And there's just like there's an understanding, I think, that they've come to in those moments, that like, because they do love each other.
Yeah.
It really isn't about like that he's in love with another woman. It's about something else is going on.
Mhm.
That and she does put her foot down at that point and kind of goes like, you need to stop seeing this woman. And she
Yeah.
doesn't ask for an explanation. She doesn't like accuse him of anything. She's just like, I know this. And then she says, I love you. And he says, I love you too. And so there's this understanding that they come to, I think.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, everyone else at the table is like, okay.
Yeah. There's so much happening at the table. So you've got Loretta, who's there with Ronnie, and her mother tells her, "Oh, by the way, Johnny's back in town. He's coming over." Which Loretta is like, "Oh no," you know. He
And
no,
Ronnie is like, yes, we have to have this out. The rest like, no, you have to go.
Yeah, and he's just like, "No, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be fine." And Loretta's just like, "Wait, but his mother's supposed to be dying." And by the way, Ronnie had no interest in going back to Palermo to see his dying mother either. Um,
I love that they're just like, why aren't you with your dying mother? Well, she doesn't like me.
yeah. Yeah. So then they're there. Grandpa comes in. He's there at the table too, which by the way, the actor who plays Grandpa, Fyodor Shalapin, he was deaf, and by this point he had lost his hearing, and he basically was just, he knew who was supposed to speak before him, so he would just watch. If you look really closely, you can see him watching people's lips and trying to figure out, like trying to follow along the scene, because he had no idea what was going on. And so then he knew based on who was talking when it was time for him to jump in with his lines, which makes the moment at the end even funnier, which we'll get to in a second. Um, but but yeah, so they're there, and then Rita and Raymond, the aunt and uncle, they come in. They're the ones that own the shop. Loretta does their books. They come in, they're worried because they went to the bank and their deposit wasn't there. And like, Loretta, what do you know about this? And she forgot to make the deposit. She was so caught up. Loretta, who's always so orderly and everything is exactly done right, forgot to go to the bank. And so they had a moment of panic, but it's okay. Loretta just forgot. It's fine. So that's going on. She didn't actually steal the money. And then Johnny comes in.
I love the way that line is delivered to, it's Johnny Camerari. Like, they know, like, I the entire buildup of that scene works so well because first Loretta is there and her mother's like, so what the fuck has been going on? Like, she's just like, I don't want to talk about it. And then Ronnie shows up and she's like, you have to go. And her mother offers him breakfast. I was just like, would you like some oatmeal? Yes, I would love like some oatmeal. And he's like introducing himself to the family because he's just like, hi, I'm Johnny's brother. And then her father's like, oh, he's Johnny's brother.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Dad does not like Johnny, so how is he gonna feel about Ronnie?
But I think he does like Ronnie by the end. So. Say, all right,
I think everybody likes Ronnie. He's hard not to like. He's crazy, and that's part of his charm. Anyway,
so you've got all these people coming in, and they're just like, so he's Johnny's brother. Oh, he's Johnny's brother, and she okay. Like, it's so well done because you can see the realization as everyone begins to understand the situation, and then Johnny shows up.
Yeah, well, it's one of those moments where everybody knows some of the story, and so they can put the pieces together without even needing to speak in complete sentences. And so watching them make those connections and like, oh, and those realizations, you get that you get the shorthand of a family who all knows each other really, really well. and they all know a little bit about what's going on. So it makes it so fun, but it also just adds to this chaos because we're sitting there like watching this all happen, watching this all unfold as it's just getting louder as more people show up. And then, yeah, Johnny walks in and everybody's just stops and wait a second, why are you here? You know, your mother's supposed to be dying. And then Johnny breaks the news that yes, his mother was dying until he told her that he was marrying Loretta, and then she miraculously got better, which for someone on the outside might sound like, oh, she's so happy that Johnny has found love with Loretta that it would make her jump out of her deathbed. But no, that's not really what happened. It's that she can't control Johnny if he marries Loretta, and that is what makes her better. So Johnny knows that he needs to break up with Loretta.
It's like, if I marry you, my mother will die. It's like, oh my God, you promised to marry me. And then Ronnie's like, Loretta, what the hell are you talking about?
Like at this point, she's in love with Ronnie. She doesn't want to marry Johnny, but it's the fact that he's now the one that's rejecting her that she's like, wait, that's not how this is supposed to go. Hold on. Oh.
It's wonderful. It's a great culmination of everything. Like, and this is a very well constructed film. I think it's why this film has had such longevity. It's so well constructed because you get these different plots, and there's a lot of time. It isn't just the story of Loretta and Ronnie. There's a lot of time spent on the parents.
Yeah.
And on that relationship. There's that entire sequence with the mother at dinner with Perry,
played by John Mahoney.
Yeah, who is wonderful. I remember seeing this for the first time being like, that's Frasier's dad.
Yep.
But so like it's an extensive sequence, and it's this whole talk about men and women and love and what and also that, like, you know, I think very often in films like this we talk about affairs. Like, affairs tend to get kind of boiled down to they're cheating on someone, but human relationships are more complicated than that. It isn't just like the superficial ethical question of, is it okay to cheat, right? There are other things that are going on emotionally and psychologically with everybody. And this film, weirdly enough, it actually addresses that. It's like, why is this happening? Like, why do men chase women? Why are these men behaving in this particular way? For that matter, why is Loretta chasing Ronnie, right? Who everything, she's just like, we are 100% wrong for each other. And he's just like, yeah, we probably are, but who cares?
Yeah.
It's that whole thing of, like, you know, that those elements also of just not being able to choose who you fall in love with necessarily, because probably if Loretta could, she would have chosen to fall in love with Johnny, but she doesn't fall in love with Johnny. She falls in love with Ronnie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she falls in love with the guy who, he's a baker with one hand, and he's loud, but he also he's so full of love and emotion. I mean, the fact that he's the one who takes her to the opera, he's the one who you know, like, she cooks for him. If he doesn't want a steak, okay, fine, but well done. Oh, this is great. It's as rare as could be. You know, like, he just has this thirst for life and this willingness to embrace life. And Johnny is very much in a lot of ways, he's very much in the style of what Loretta has turned herself into, of just very ordered, and everything is just done a certain way. And that is what Johnny is, which has a lot to do with his mother, because she's always controlled him. And even from her deathbed, she is controlling him by choosing to get better just because he's going to marry Loretta.
That is going to be such a loud house if all of those people live together. Like, if Ronnie and Loretta move in with her parents, so much noise, so much fighting.
Right, which
all the time.
Her mother wants that. Like, when Loretta tells Rose, oh yeah, I'm gonna marry Johnny. Oh, good. Are you gonna live here? No, Dad doesn't like him. so yeah, she wants her daughter and her daughter's family to have a family in their house. She wants that.
Yeah,
it's
I like that her response is, all right, fine, we'll sell the house. Just like, I don't want you to sell the house.
Right.
It's like, we'll sell the house. You're not going to live. We'll sell the house. Just like, why would you sell the house?
She just wants to keep the family together. Yeah. And so I love how, okay, so back to the ending. So Johnny tells Loretta we can't get married. Loretta gets mad at him for being the one to break up, and she gives him his ring back. And then Ronnie asks to borrow the ring because he proposes to Loretta, and she's like, you don't have a ring. And so then Loretta and Ronnie are now engaged, and Grandpa starts crying. And Cosmo's like, what's wrong, Dad? And he just goes, I'm confused.
Grandpa has not seen most of what has gone on with all of these people. He's like, I have no idea what's happening anymore.
And it's just so sweet. But yeah, it's just this big, loud, wonderful, happy ending where, I mean, Loretta and Johnny, neither of them really want to marry each other. They're just willing to do it because it just feels like what they should do. And so now they're both off the hook. And Loretta gets to marry someone that she really does and really can just have this loving, exciting relationship with.
Yep.
And Johnny can go back to Palermo and be with his mom.
But I like that it ends. It still ends like, okay, you're family now. Everybody is family. Like they include Johnny and everything. Just like, you're his brother. You're a family.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's very like it's such a joyful film. It's very funny, but it's very like it's not just funny, it like actually lifts your spirits. It makes you happy. It's just like, yes, everything's gonna be okay. We just like gotta eat food and drink wine and enjoy the moon and listen to opera and be in love. Like there's something just very warming about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know it gets described as a romantic comedy, and it is a romance and it is a comedy, but I feel like it's deeper than what we tend to look at a romantic comedy as. I think it's yeah. And it's just good. And it's so good. And I'm so happy that this movie won awards. And Cher is just the best. I love her.
She's delightful in this. She really is. Like I think the Nick Cage, because he's such an extreme character.
Yes.
I lost my hand! I lost my bride! Johnny has his hand! Johnny has his bride! You want me to take my heartbreak, put it away and forget?
Jesus Christ.
Well, and so back on that too, what I love about that is, I mean, I kind of touched on this before, but like he's still, and this has been years, it's been like 5 years, and he's still so angry at his brother, and he's still so mad at his fiance, and just like so hurt about all of that. And there's a girl standing 10 feet away who has just been in love with him for all this time, and he can't see it because he's just so caught up in what he lost and what was taken away from him until Loretta.
What does she say? That this is the most tortured man I have ever met. Like, I'm in love with this man, but I could never tell. Like, yeah, there's just like, where are you people from? Jesus Christ.
Right.
Yeah, the entire scene in the ovens and that's where there is like this operatic, I think, element to all of this is, and then she later lectures him just like, you're a wolf who like who's caught in a trap but chewed off his own paw. It's like, everyone calm down.
Yep. By the way, the I'm in love with you snap out of it is in our intro. Love that part.
It's great.
Oh, this movie's so good.
Yes, Cher is delightful. I think I mentioned this. I think I mentioned it before we started recording, but the fact that like she goes through her makeover, and first of all, she's already Cher.
Right.
Like, watch it, just like, that is Cher. And she is wearing like sort of like, you don't have to dress like that, Cher, but still you're Cher. And then she like gets made over, and she gets like her hair, like that's the biggest hair I've ever seen. And she gets like her hair done. Hair. It is. And she gets her hair done and everything, just like, oh my God, it's Cher. Like,
yep.
She's like, she was Cher, and now she's Cher.
Yes. She's wonderful. I love Cher. I'm just looking through. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? I do love the age thing. So in this, Loretta is supposed to be 37 and Johnny is supposed to be 42. There's a line specifically where Ronnie says something about him being 42, but he was like in his 50s. Cher was 41 and Nicolas Cage was 23.
You know what? Props to Cher, because I believe that she was the one that advocated for him to get the part as
She
well.
did, yeah.
She wanted him for this role.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Good for her.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it was perfect. It's one of those casting choices where I cannot see anybody else playing that role that well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because it does require somebody to be kind of unhinged, but in this charming way.
Yeah, and Cage, Cage is actually a very good actor, and a lot of people kind of we tend to forget what a good actor he really is. And he is, very capable of those unhinged things. But yeah, in this case, it's very believable and it fits into the characterization. It fits into everything that the film is up to. It's again going back to that melodrama.
Yeah.
And that extremity and that humor, because we're not meant to laugh at him, but we're meant to laugh at the situation.
Yes.
And at like that, those bursts of intensity, right? Because it is funny.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's also an intelligent person too. He has a lot of just like his emotions actually are connected to something. He's not just this, just this like ball of just anger and rage and stuff. Like there's something more to it. And so that's like we keep coming back to it, but I love when they go to the opera and how the opera means so much to him. And when they're walking out and she's talking about, oh, I didn't think that the girl was going to die. And he's just like, she had TB. Like he's explaining to her, like, this is just how it had to be. And, but he says that in such a way that is just so like, he thinks about things. There's some depth to him, even while he's railing about losing his hand because his brother distracted him.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. It's such a well done film.
It is. Any final thoughts?
Well, it's wonderful. It is on Criterion Channel until the end of the month as well. So just to let everybody know, if you're planning on watching Moonstruck, definitely watch it. It's on Criterion. And it is on disc on Criterion, I believe, as well, right?
I bought it the second it went on Criterion, yes.
I'm going to have to get it. I'm going to have to get a copy of it.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, all right. Definitely, if it's been a while, even if it's been a week, watch it again. Yeah.
Used to be one of my favorite movies, actually. Like, I had a huge crush on Nick Cage in this movie, particularly.
Oh, yeah. 1980s Nick Cage with Valley Girl and this, and Peggy Sue got married, and just, I love Nicolas Cage. And this is one of the first movies where I was like, I think I'm in love with Cher, too.
Little Nicky Coppola.
Yep. Oh, sometimes the Nepo baby thing works out for all of us. All right. Well, that is going to wrap things up for this week. We would love to hear your thoughts on Moonstruck too. So please be sure to let us know. And there's going to be lots of ways you can do that. I would like to thank our patrons for helping keep the show going. They are Abby, Audra, Brian, Connor, Estefania, Ferdinand, Heather, James, Judy, Carriata, Matt, Michelle, MK, Monty, Nanina, Noel, Robert, Steve, and Sharon. If you would like to join them and become a patron too, you can go to patreon.com/citizendame and sign up. You help keep the show ad-free and you get some stuff with it too. Currently, right now, we have our bonus episode. We're back on track with it, our bonus series from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. We are going through all of the Alfred Hitchcock directed episodes. There are 18 total. So we're working our way through that, and you get that as a patron. So definitely want to check that out. And there's other ways you can support us too. We do have our Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/citizendame. To follow along with our written work, we have our website, citizendamepod.com, and you can email us, citizendamepod@gmail.com. We're also on the social medias. We are on Instagram and Blue Sky at Citizen Dame Pod and Letterboxd at Citizen Dame. And of course, you can find us individually. Lauren, where are you?
I am on Instagram and Letterboxd at LH Business.
And I am on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at Karen M. Peterson. Next week, we will be discussing the movie Maurice, which is also from 1987 and stars Hugh Grant and I don't remember who else. Anyway, it's directed by James Ivory. And that is for anybody who's like, oh no, I need to watch this before the episode. It is available on Tubi and Canopy. So there you go. And that's it. That's going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
You have someone on that plane?
Yeah, my fiance.
I put a curse on that plane. My sister is on that plane. I put a curse on that plane that it's gonna explode, burn on fire and fall into the sea. 50 years ago, she stole a man from me. Sorpresa il mio uomo. Today she tells me that she never loved him, that she took him to be strong on me. Oh, she's gone back to Sicily, ritorna in Sicilia. I cursed her that the green Atlantic water should swallow her up.
I don't believe in curses.
Neither do I.